Hi book lovers, welcome back to my channel. I'm doing my July wrap up today, so I'll be talking about all the books that I read last month. I read a total of 14 books, so hopefully this wrap up won't be too long. I actually had quite a few new favorites of the year, so I'm excited to talk about those. But let's just jump into it. Here are all the books that I read back in July. The first book that I read last month was Takeoff by Evelyn Sola. This one is only the second book that I've ever read from this author, and I liked it for the most part. I'm giving it 3.5 stars. It's book 3 in the Take series. I liked it a little bit more than book 2, which was the first book that I read from her. And the reason why I like this one a little bit better is because the drama didn't drive me as crazy as book 2 did. There's an interracial romance here. There is a single dad, NBA player hero, and a heroine who has sworn off dating athletes and single dads. So even though Vicky and Colt meet at this bar one night and they do hit it off, there's like this instant attraction, Vicky has sworn off his kind of man, so she does shoot him down, but he is a very determined hero. He does everything he can to change her mind about him, about dating him, and he is very forward about it. But I did like the fact that he is a very low-key kind of famous athlete. He's a single dad and all he wants to do is be there for his son, but now that he's met Vicky, this is the first time that he ever wants something for himself. He works hard at winning her over, and we do get to see a lot of him and his son. They have the cutest father-son relationship. Evan is a very sweet kid, and I did love seeing his growing relationship with Vicky. There is a very predictable third act breakup here, so just an FYI for those who don't like third act breakups. I love them, but apparently a lot of people do not. Colt pushes Vicky away and she loses all trust in him because of it, and he does have to do some groveling to win her back. I can't say that I love this book, but it was fun while I was reading it, and even though I said the drama wasn't as bad as book 2, there is still plenty of it here. I mean, the hero is over the top in his pursuit of the heroine. She does come off a little judgmental of him, of athletes in general, but if you can deal with all of that and you're looking for a fun sports romance to read, then this would totally work. I read a very steamy novella next. This is Wrong by Adelaide Forrest. This one is straight up a smutty, dark romance novella. Like, don't expect any sort of plot to it. It is purely smut, and it's the dark kind of smut too. It's very toxic, dark, and wrong, as the title says. We do have a giant age gap here. It's between the college age heroine and her father's best friend. He's very much into the kink scene. He is into consensual non-consent. He sets up the scene with another woman, but for some reason, when he sees the heroine, when he's supposed to meet up with the other woman, he thinks that the heroine is there for him, so he takes her literally. There's consensual non-consent, dubious consent, straight up non-consent, like all of that stuff. It gets all dark and intense and taboo. I mean, he is still her father's best friend and he's lusted after her for a while. He makes her his in every single way, and eventually she does end up falling for him. Again, it's very twisted. It's good if you like dark romances, if you don't mind these sort of kinks. I mean, I ended up enjoying it. It was a really quick and hot read. I give it 4 stars. Just please be sure to check for any triggers. I mean, I think Amazon actually banned the ebook of this one, like straight up banned it, so you can find it on the author's website, I think, but I borrowed the audiobook from my library. And then for one of my new all-time favorites of 2023, which I've talked about quite a few times on my channel now, this is Glitch by Brianna Michaels. I give it 5 stars. I loved it so much. It's another novella. It's another steamy novella. It was hot and short and exactly what I was in the mood for, and the hero here is so swoony. So the romance here is a gaming romance. The main characters are gaming friends, but they've never actually met in person yet. They've fallen in love with each other through their conversations, through their voices, and when they finally do get to meet in person, when she goes to his electronics store to get her laptop fixed, it's like sparks are just flying between them. Glitch was so perfect here. Glitch is the hero and he straight up adores the heroine so much. He worships the ground that she walks on. They get a little kinky in bed. It is so hot. There's also this plot regarding the heroine's ex, but that's not really important. What's important here is the smut, and the hero. So this was the perfect steamy novella. I loved it. I highly recommend it. Before I get into the rest of this video, I did want to share today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by Melanie Harlow and her new enemies to lovers bodyguard romance, Hideaway Heart. The heroine is a country music sensation who just wants to get away from everything to a cabin and relax, but because of all this crazy paparazzi that she has, her family makes her take a bodyguard. The hero is this bodyguard, and of course he is tall, dark, and handsome. He's also a former Navy SEAL, so he does have what it takes to be her bodyguard. There's the only one bed trope here in this cabin that they have to share, so he takes the couch. He follows her everywhere. He's this overprotective, bossy grump until they finally end up kissing. So if you love romances with characters who are complete opposites, who come from completely different backgrounds, where they have to figure out if they can make it in the real world, then definitely check out Hideaway Heart by Melanie Harlow. I'll leave a link down below for you to grab your copy today. A big thank you to Melanie Harlow for being today's sponsor, and back to the rest of this video. And then I read Take the Lead by Alexis Daria. If you've ever wanted to read a romance that's basically Dancing with the Stars but in book form, then this is it. It takes place on this reality dancing show, which is essentially Dancing with the Stars. The heroine is one of the dancers, and she has never won the show yet. She's been on the show for 4 seasons, but she's never made it to the finals. But her newest partner has a chance to get them to the top. Stone is the star of this Alaskan wilderness show, and he really doesn't want to have anything to do with the Dancing with the Stars show, but he does it for his family. He has no experience in dancing, but you do get to see him and Gina practicing their dance moves, going through the whole competition, going through all the rounds, all while falling for each other. They do try to keep their romance a secret. It's got like a forbidden romance vibe to it, just because they don't want the cameras to see anything. They don't want their audience to know about them falling for each other. I did feel a little bit bad for Stone because he actually wanted to be out about their relationship, but Gina was one who wanted to keep it quiet, which I mean is understandable because she doesn't want to be known as a person who sleeps with a coworker or a co-star. But the whole dancing reality show thing here was so fun. I thought it was so unique. I don't think I've ever read like a Dancing with the Stars romance book, so that was great. And add in Stone being this grumpy mountain man, I had a lot of fun with it, so I gave this 4 stars. I then read 2 Jackie Lau books next. I finished up the rest of the Cider Bar Sisters series. I read the first 3 books already, so last month I read books 4 and 5. They were both quick and easy reads. I usually have a good time when I read Jackie Lau. They always have a cozy feel to them, so book 4 is her favorite rebound. This one I gave 4 stars. The heroine here has a billionaire boyfriend that her family absolutely loves, and it's definitely because he's a billionaire that they love him. But it turns out that this boyfriend is not quite as perfect as she thought he was, because he's not the hero of this book. The real hero of her favorite rebound is the billionaire's former friend slash employee. When Jake meets Sierra for the first time, it is insta-love. It's love at first sight for him. He just knows that she's the one for him, but when he finds out that she is with that billionaire who he does not like, and for good reason, he does go up to Sierra and warn her about her boyfriend, which is a little weird, I'll admit. It's definitely weird to just go up to a woman and tell her that her boyfriend sucks. After this, Sierra and Jake do keep running into each other, and I guess they form a sort of love triangle, but I mean, it's obvious that Sierra will end up with Jake at the end. There's also some family drama in this book. It's not quite as entertaining as some of the earlier books. Here, Sierra was that Asian kid who quit her engineering job to open up a stationery store, which her parents, her family, was not happy about. Then she goes and dumps her billionaire boyfriend, so they're like, what are you doing? So there's drama with that, but I did appreciate Sierra's character, how she stood her ground with them. She went to pursue her passions, which was this stationery store, and she's also a big fan of stuffed alpacas, which was so cute. Honestly, because of that family drama, the whole romance could have been messy. It could have been way angstier than it was, but it wasn't, in a good way, just because these characters were not about the drama. It was just her family causing all the trouble, but Overall, the romance, besides like the weird beginning, it was really sweet. I mean, all the hero wanted was the best for the heroine, and he knew that her billionaire boyfriend was not going to be it. So I did enjoy this one. And then I also read book 5 in the series, which is Her Unexpected Roommate. And yes, it is a roommates to lovers romance. This one I also gave 4 stars to. It is a little heavier than the other books in the series, but it also has the most chill hero ever, so it sort of balanced itself out. The main characters here, they have a one-night stand, and the next day Cal does promise to text Rose to meet up again, but unfortunately his phone ends up getting run over by a car. So now he has no way of contacting Rose ever again, and because she doesn't know about this, she just thinks that Cal straight up ghosted her. Fast forward a couple months later, and Rose now has a new roommate that her old roommate set up for her. She wasn't a part of this process, so she is very shocked and very surprised to see Cal as her new roommate. Luckily, there's no miscommunication in this book. They do try to talk things out pretty early on, and they do try to stay as roommates only, even though they definitely still want each other. But the thing that makes this book a little bit more interesting, a little bit more unique than just a roommates romance, is that the heroine suffers from anxiety and depression. Her mother also suffered the same, but she never saw any sort of help or medication, and she ended up dying from it. So Rose does have a lot of trauma when it comes to this, when it comes to her mom. There's also an author's note from Jackie Lau that talks about this. But that being said, even though the book does get intense, the actual romance is so sweet. It's wholesome because of how good Cal is with Rose. He's patient and kind and completely understanding of her issues. He doesn't make a big deal of it at all. So this was a really sweet read. I love the support system that the heroine had. We get to see all of the previous characters in the series, her whole girl group here. So it was a nice ending to the series. I also read another Adelaide Forest book last month. It's another one of my new favorites this year. It's Scarred Regrets, and I give it 5 stars. It's book 5 in the Blondie Crime Syndicate series. I do recommend you read the series in order just because there's a lot of things going on, overlapping stuff, and all the characters are very connected, but each book is about a different couple, so technically you could read each one as a standalone. This one though is just so much better than the previous books. The whole series so far until now has been like a solid 3-star read for me, but then this one it was just so much better. I loved it so much. It's another dark romance from Adelaide Forest. This one is actually the darkest one of the series, at least so far. Both the main characters have a lot of trauma, especially the hero. He has so much childhood trauma that he can't stand to be touched by anyone, even the heroine. When Scar and Irina meet for the first time, it is very much insta-lust. They want each other badly, but he can't stand to be touched. So they do try to work around that. He can touch her, but she can't touch him. They're super hot and cute together in a dark romance way because he does end up stalking her a little bit. But these two were made for each other and I love their romance. But then things change. There's a huge shift in tone in the book because the heroine ends up getting kidnapped. This is when things get dark and brutal and violent. The heroine does get assaulted. It's so tragic and so heartbreaking, and all the while Scar is trying to find Irina. The emotions here were all over the place. Oh my gosh, I was feeling so much for these two characters. And because of what Irina goes through, Scar does have to change a little bit. I mean, he's still like an alpha, obsessive, possessive hero, but he grows this softer side because of what she went through. So he helps her recover and everything. It is so sweet, so romantic. I just love these two so much. And then for my book club, we read Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. I like this one. It's like a 3.5 stars for me. It could have been a 4, but there were just a couple things that did annoy me, so 3.5 stars. But still, for a debut book, it's not bad at all, although I do know that the author was a former fanfic author, so that probably helped her with this book. So this one is about a second chance romance between a wedding planner heroine and her grumpy florist ex. The book is told in both of their point of views, but the heroines is all set in the present and the heroes are all set in the past. I didn't mind it too much, although I did wish that we got more of the hero's point of view and more of it in the present day, just because I know it would have been so angsty and so full of pining. So Emma and Elliot met and fell in love years ago, but then something happened that caused them to break up. They reunite 2 years later for a wedding, for the wedding planning of a celebrity couple where the heroine is the wedding planner and the hero is their florist. Emma and Elliot are forced to work together again, forced to be around each other again, and see each other for the first time after like 2 years. Emma is so torn up about seeing Elliot again because she clearly still loves him, and Elliot is his very grumpy self, but it was so cute and so sweet how grumpily protective he was over Emma. For a majority of the book, you are kept in suspense about what happened to break them apart, but I'll be honest, when the reveal came about what actually happened 2 years ago, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I'm trying to stay spoiler free, but the reveal made me dislike the heroine. It made me feel like she didn't have as much of a reason to feel as torn up about Elliot as Elliot did over Emma. So this is the main reason why I'm leaning towards more of a 3.5-star rating than a 4-star rating. It was still a good read and I did love the whole wedding planning aspect of it, but I feel like the romance, the foundation of the romance could have been a little bit stronger. And if we got the hero's point of view about what was going on in present day, I probably would have loved it a lot more. I then read Resonance Surge by Nalini Singh. We're on book 7 of the Psy Changeling Trinity series now. This time we dive into a closer look into one of the former council members' family, the Marshall family. Marshall Hyde was one of the evil counselors early on in the series, but he did end up dying, and the heroine of Resonance Surge is his granddaughter. Not a lot of people know about Theo because she is this low gradient Psy. Only the powerful people of their family are well known, like her brother, her twin brother. Thankfully though, these two are not evil like their grandfather was. They're actually doing investigations about some of the awful things that their grandfather did back in the day, which was basically rehabilitating Psy against their will. This is where the hero comes in because he's also doing a sort of investigation into these rehabilitation centers. Yakov is a bear shifter. We have another Psy changeling pairing here. He's part of the Stonewater Bears, and this was literally the reason why I was so excited to read Resonance Surge, because I love these bears so much. I fell in love with them back in Silver Silence, which was book 1 in the series, and I've been dying to read more about them. But the romance here was really sweet, pretty low-key, low drama. I mean, at first Yakov is a little wary of Theo just because of who her family is, who her grandfather was, but he quickly sees that she's nothing like them and he grows so protective over her. She has a lot of childhood scars because of her grandfather, but Yakov is just so sweet and understanding about what she went through. I will say the romance between them did take a back seat to everything else going on in this book. There's just so much of the overarching plot of this series that I do wish we got a little bit more of just Theo and Yakov. We have a side romance that does take up some page time as well. It's Yakov's twin brother's romance. It's an MM romance. And yes, both main characters here are twins. That's partly why they bonded so well. I'm giving this one 4 stars, even though it's not like a new favorite of the series for me. I still had a great time being back in the Psy Changeling world. I mean, it's one of my favorite paranormal romance series, paranormal romance worlds ever, and I know I'll always have a good time when I pick up Nalini Singh. I'm also really hoping we get a romance for Theo's twin brother, Pax, because he intrigued me so much in this book. Next up, I read a new to me monster romance author for the first time. This is Muscles and Monsters by Ashley Bennett, and I'm giving this one 3 stars. This monster romance novella is the first book in the Leviathan Fitness series. It's literally a monster romance set at a gym, which is the name of the series. It's a super short read, so there's not much to it except this sweet and wholesome romance. Sadly though, wholesome monster romances are not really my jam, I'm coming to discover. I prefer my monster romances more monstery and dark, though of course there are some exceptions, but this romance just didn't blow me away. I mean, it's fun and good for a short time while you're reading it, but once you finish, it's not something that you'd really remember. It's a human monster romance. The heroine is a plus-size human and the hero is this werewolf gym bro, emphasis on wolf, because he does look like a wolf. Alice and Tegan meet after this wedding cake fiasco and she ends up joining his gym afterwards. They have the sweetest and sappiest romance ever. This is a kind of hero who is totally gone for the heroine. Alice is a total simp for Tegan. It's adorable for sure, just a little bit too sweet for me. And then one of my absolute favorites of the year is The Favor by Suzanne Wright. This one, 5 stars. I loved it so much. It is marriage of convenience perfection, and it's a marriage of convenience between a boss and his assistant. You can't get more classic than that. Dane is very much a ruthless kind of CEO hero, and he needs to get married in order to get his inheritance. Dane is very much a ruthless type of CEO hero. He needs to get married in order to get his trust fund, and the only one he trusts to do this with is his assistant. Vienna is his perfect match. She is the only one who is able to stand up to him. And the reason behind the title of The Favor is that Vienna owes Dane a favor for when he was able to get rid of some unsavory photos, videos of her. So he cashes in this favor by asking her to marry him. We've got all this fake relationship stuff, like they have to pretend to be all lovey-dovey to the public. They have to pretend to everyone that their love is real, that their marriage is real. The chemistry between them is amazing. I love their banter. Their romance was so good. And oh my gosh, the steam was fantastic. I loved it so much. I loved Dane's intensity. I loved how much he wanted Vienna. This was just an amazing marriage of convenience romance. Like, if you love this trope, you definitely need to read this book. And then after I read The Favor, I guess I was in a old school Harlequin mood because that's what I picked up next. I read Tempestuous Reunion by Lynn Graham, and this book was absolutely insane, but I still loved it. I gave it 4 stars. It's ridiculous, but so good. It was exactly what I was craving, just a wild romance. It's from 1991 and it does read like it, but I still really liked it. It's got the amnesia trope, which was the main reason why I picked this one up. I mean, I've read the author before and also really like that one, but this one I definitely read because of the whole amnesia thing. It's a second chance romance between a rich hero and his former mistress. Katherine was Luke's mistress back in the day. I mean, they call heroines mistresses even though the heroes are not married. I guess it was just the term back then for a female lover, but she was his mistress and she thought that he would eventually marry her. She was in love with him and everything, and when she asked him about it, like when they're gonna get married, he flat out said that he would never marry her. Like, he would never deign to marry such a lowly commoner. Again, it does read like 1991, okay? It's very old school, very messed up, but the thing that I loved about this one was that the heroine left his ass after that. She leaves him without a trace. She does leave him while she's pregnant though, which she does not tell him about, so you know, even more drama. And then, as if there's not enough drama, when they reunite, he wants her back and she's like, are you crazy? Absolutely not. But she hits her head and gets amnesia, and the hero takes total advantage of this. She loses years of her memories. She loses the fact that she left him, that she had his child, and as soon as she wakes up, Luke tells her that they're gonna get married because he wants her back. It is absolutely insane, but this drama, I lived for it. I'm just so glad that I found this one. I don't know how I found it, but I just borrowed it from my library and had the absolute best time. And then another new favorite of the year for me is Hello Stranger by Katherine Center. This one I'm in between like 4.5 to 5 stars. I mean, I still loved it. It was amazing. It was just a little bit predictable and slow at some parts, but I still loved it. I even teared up at the end. I just love Katherine Center every time that I read her, and this was another winner for me. It's about a heroine who gets face blindness. Sadie is a struggling artist. She's a portrait artist, but she's managed to get herself a big break. She's a finalist in this big art competition, but right before she's about to submit her artwork, she gets into an accident and loses the ability to recognize faces, which of course does make it very difficult for her to draw faces. And while she's dealing with all of this, going through all this turmoil about losing this important aspect about herself, there's also a love triangle going on that you can't predict and see the ending of a mile away. I mean, when you have a heroine who can't recognize faces but is falling for 2 different guys, what else could the conclusion be? So one of them is a vet. He is her dog's new vet, and the other one is one of her neighbors who helps her with the whole portrait competition. Her romance with the vet is very idealistic but also so hilarious, whereas her romance with the neighbor is a lot more down to earth. He's a bit of a dork, but their friends to lovers romance is super cute. And even though I said the romance, the love triangle is predictable, I still loved it. I had a lot of fun with it, waiting for the heroine to find out the truth, and I just loved Sadie's character so much. Katherine Center always writes the most endearing heroines, and I really felt for her and how she had so much anxiety about not being able to see faces anymore. I loved her love for her cute dog, and I also loved her sense of humor. There's also a lot of family drama going on for her. She has this shitty stepsister, her father has been estranged from her since her mother died, and it's that father-daughter relationship that had me choking up at the end of this book. It's just a very heartwarming read with a very sweet romance. Like other books by Katherine Center, this one does lean more towards women's fiction. So just know that going in, like, don't expect the romance to be front and center. It is definitely all about the heroine, but it was so good and I loved it so much. And then the final book that I read in July is another monster romance novella. This is Run Rabbit Run by C.M. Costa. This one I wanted to love so much more, but I did not. I'm giving it 2 stars. For this book, I definitely should have read the reviews before going into it. It would have been very helpful to know what I was getting into. It's a romance that ends in a barely happy for now note, and the hero totally sucks here. It's a monster romance, a paranormal romance between 2 werewolf shifters. It's also an office romance. They work together. She works at his company. She gets hired as one of the new attorneys, and they eventually start up this affair after like a lot of chemistry going on between them. The thing is, even though they start up this affair, it is not monogamous. They definitely sleep with other people while sleeping with each other. The sad thing about it is that the heroine actually wants a relationship, wants a monogamous relationship with the hero, but he does not. And this goes on for literally years. I was feeling so bad for the heroine. It wasn't romantic at all, I'm not gonna lie. It didn't even feel messy. It just felt very sad. The only good thing about it was that it was a hot read. It was very steamy. Like, they have fun in their wolf forms, their actual wolf forms. I don't see that a lot in werewolf romances, but the steam is the main reason why I'm giving this one an extra star, because the romance was just so severely lacking. But hey, at least if you know going into it what you're going to expect, you can adjust your expectations. Just go into it for the smut, not anything else. And that's it for my wrap up of July. These are all 14 books that I read last month. If you've read any of them, let me know your thoughts on them. As always, links to all the books that I mentioned will be down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!